Start. Ask her if I'm seeing her done. Good afternoon. In this talk, I will share some of the observations from our lab and from labs outside as well. What are the neurobiological effects of yoga? In particular, stress related neurophysiology. Yoga has been used in mental health quite widely, and the use has come because traditionally yoga has been linked to its effects on reducing the stress. In fact, in the oldest texts as well, where Ramayana mentions yoga, manah prashamanopayaha iti yoga. What brings peace to your mind is yoga. Samatvam yoga uchyate. Equanimity is yoga. And Patanjali says yoga chitta vritti nirodha. What brings down oscillations of your mind is yoga. So, yoga has come to play in the area of well being and mental health. No wonder many psychiatrists used it. And today, there is no stress management program without using yoga. Some components of yoga are always used in these programs. Let me admit, most of the research that we have done at NIMHANS and some I have read are all related to yoga applications in disorders. And I see no reason why the same neurobiological effects are not seen in healthy subjects as well. It's possible, although I have not focused on that in this present talk. Amongst the stress effects, when we are talking of, we are reminded of cortisol, a hormone which has a neurophysiological basis. Stress increases this hormone, which is quite ubiquitous. And in fact, one of the stress related psychiatric disorder, that is depression, cortisol levels are elevated. In fact, there was a time when people said that the elevated levels of cortisol inability to suppress cortisol by dexamethasone could even be diagnostic. Yoga reduces cortisol levels. We have seen in depressed patients who had higher levels of cortisol, more people who are exposed to yoga with or without medicines obtained a lowering of cortisol levels. Interestingly, the degrees to which the cortisol levels lowered also paralleled the degrees to which their depression scores got better. The observation we were able to replicate another study with yoga alone. We were able to obtain the same results of reduction in cortisol. The stress relief with yoga could be associated with some of the neurotransmitter effects. One of them that has been studied is the GABA. GABA levels become increased following yoga. And this measurement has happened using MRS methodology before and after yoga, whether in healthy subjects or in depressed individuals, the GABA signal is increased following yoga. And the same depressed patients also obtained clinical relief. We have looked at a neurophysiological marker of yoga, neurophysiological marker of GABA in yoga subjects. This was possible using a single pulse transcranial magnetic stimulation. Using this paradigm, the GABA tone can be measured. I'm not going into the details of how this measures the GABA tone, what is the detailed methodology of this neurophysiological procedure. But suffice to say, this is a standardized procedure used by several neurophysiological investigators. The GABA tone measured using this is lower in people with depression than in healthy subjects. This has been replicated by our laboratory as well. In depressed subjects, we randomize them to receive either yoga or a walk for the same period. Before and after 5 days of yoga, we were able to obtain improvements or increase in the GABA tone as measured by this neurophysiological measure. But the same was not demonstrable in the group which did that walking. Although both groups reported some improvement, the improvement was significant in the group that did yoga, but that in the group which did the walking, the improvement was not significant. So, other measure of yoga effect, neurobiological effect, increasing the level of GABA, were able to demonstrate. The third is the effects on BDNF. There is a standard saying in the Subhashitas, Chita dahati nirjeevam, chinta dahati jeevanam. You're worried, you're stressed, you're likely to have the effects on your body that lead to shrinking. Chronically depressed individuals have smaller gray matter, enlarged ventricles. So it is likely that the stress effects will tell on the brain systems as well. And the system implicated is the brain derived neurotropic factor. BDNF levels in depressed individuals have been demonstrated to be lower than in healthy subjects. And in these depressed subjects, when they get better, the BDNF levels are higher. In fact, there are some authors who say that the low BDNF level in depression could even be a biological marker for depression. Although we have not reached that level of specificity, yoga effects in BDNF have been studied. We were able to demonstrate that in depressed outpatient individuals, BDNF levels were lower than in healthy subjects. You treat them and they get better. 3 months later, the BDNF levels have gone up. They received either antidepressant medicines, antidepressant medicine and yoga, or yoga alone. And these were not randomized groups of people. They chose this treatment because we are volunteered. They volunteered to take yoga. They wanted to remain in yoga. I don't want to see these three groups as comparable groups or a comparative groups in a randomized clinical trial. In both the groups who received yoga, with or without medicine, the BDNF levels actually elevated. And this was significant in both the groups. But in the group which received medicines alone, antidepressants alone, it was not significant. The elevation was not significant. I must give a caution that this comparison would be unfair because these three groups were not randomized. People who came for follow up at the end of 3 months in the drug group were those who were either partially recovered or probably not totally recovered. Whereas in the yoga group, even though they had recovered, they continued to come for follow up because they wanted to continue yoga practices at least during the follow up under supervision. So, the benefit of doubt, I still want to give it to the medicines. Had we followed up all people who had recovered from medicines and did pre and post BDNF levels, even medicines could have shown the elevation of BDNF effect. However, suffice to say that there is a neurobiological effect of yoga in increasing the BDNF levels. And lastly, among the other neurobiological effects that we examined was the structural morphology. We measured the gray matter in the brain. We focused on the hippocampus because we were investigating this in a group of people who had been put up in elderly homes. Our people went to teach them yoga. They were otherwise clinically well, they had no neurological disorders. They all, of course, had subjective memory complaints diagnosable as mild cognitive impairment. The size was very small. We do not claim multiple comparison correction. However, in this preliminary data, we were able to demonstrate that the hippocampal volume had increased following yoga. We did not replicate, we did not have a control group. We do consider that this observation in a prospective design is very unsupported. But there are studies elsewhere. People have looked at the uh, volumes of gray matter in those who have been chronically practicing yoga versus who did not. Age related shrinking of the gray matter was seen in those who did not practice yoga. But in those who practiced yoga for long numbers of years, age related shrinking of the gray matter was not demonstrable. And this was significant. So, together, we have data on the stress effects of yoga starting from cortisol, the elevations of GABA, reductions in cortisol, elevations of BDNF, together the net effect on the gray matter being preserved from shrinking are probably even elevated in some other studies. So, yoga in effect protects the brain structures to some extent from the stress related physiology. Very interestingly, we did a sub analysis of the relationship between lowering of the cortisol and elevation of the BDNF. In the group where the cortisol levels had been lowered, this is the group which had the best elevation in the BDNF levels as compared to the group where the cortisol levels either did not lower or in some of them actually went on to increase. In this group, the BDNF levels actually remained same or even came down. So there is a interesting relationship between getting demonstrable between these four different parameters. Unfortunately, there are not many studies, in fact, there are no studies at all, which have looked at multiple neurophysiological effects to build a theory as to how yoga would work uh, to protect the brain, or is there a common neurophysiological mechanism, a neurobiological mechanism which holds true for yoga. Partly this is true because different yoga procedures are used in different studies. Although in our data for depression, we used a common yoga practice, but the practices elsewhere could be different from what we have used, and across centers the yoga procedures could be different. This is a reason why we are perhaps limited in interpreting this data universally. There are several questions that crop up. Would these effects of yoga have come up merely because they were exercising, yoga as a part of exercise? There's an interesting article written by one of our colleagues looking at the differences between yoga and exercises on many physiological parameters. In some, there are differences, in some, there are parallels. BDNF, for example, both exercise and yoga increase the levels of BDNF. Cortisol is lowered in milder forms of exercise, but in severe forms of exercise, cortisol levels could even go up. There are no evidences with respect to the other parameters, but neuroprotection with exercise has been well demonstrated in other studies as well. Head to head comparison, whether yoga is better than exercise or exercise is better than yoga, has not been possible. There are other questions that are also asked. Leave the neurobiological data apart. Are the yoga studies reported from Indian literature claiming better results than those reported from Western literature? There was a recent meta-analysis or comparison which said that yoga effects are perhaps more positive in Indian studies than those studies. There are several arguments for this. One is whether the yoga researchers were so biased to report only the positive data, or they published only the positive results, but they did not publish the negative results for fear of labeling yoga being useless. The third possibility is that the patients who did yoga in this community had more faith in yoga than the Western communities, whether there is a faith based over reporting of getting better in this population, whether that added to the placebo effect of the drug as well, or placebo effect of yoga as well. In measures which are subjective, all these arguments could hold true. In measures which are objective, such as measurement of cortisol, measurement of brain structure, measurement of BDNF, measurement of GABA levels. Again, it is difficult to say the group doing yoga in India versus you group doing yoga elsewhere. Are they going to be different? There are limited data on the yoga physiology and on neurophysiology of other systems. Although there are some studies which have found the heart rate variability, although we do not have much experience on this, there is some data in our own institute where patients who are practicing yoga for and who had epilepsy, and in them the heart rate variability increased. This observation needs replication, and I think more studies will come forward. Elsewhere, people have found that yoga effects actually increase heart rate variability. It's true that exercise and chronic exercise also increases heart rate variability, although not in acute scenario. Put together, neurobiological effects of yoga have some evidence that they, in quotes, correct the physiology of the illnesses for which we have treated, depression in particular here. We also have data from schizophrenia, although we need to replicate this observation. We looked at the uh, DMN network, default mode network in schizophrenia. In schizophrenia, yoga has been known to improve the negative symptoms and also the social cognition in schizophrenia. And we examined the levels of oxytocin. Oxytocin is implicated in social cognition deficits. And we demonstrated that following a 3 month of yoga practice, the levels of oxytocin went up in patients of schizophrenia. And in this group of people, the social cognition measured in social cognition tests, one of them very typically which we use is how to identify emotions on the faces, how to accurately recognize the emotions on the faces. It's a measure of social cognition. And the group which did yoga did much better than the group which was wait listed. So elevation of oxytocin could have some parallels to the improvements in social cognition and even in negative symptoms. We actually measured another neurophysiological status of the default mode network in people with schizophrenia and in healthy subjects. Let me confess my competence on this interpretation of default mode network. Not very good, but nonetheless, schizophrenia people had different default mode network uh, coherence compared to healthy subjects. And in people who received yoga versus those who did not receive yoga but were waitlisted, there was a differential effect of yoga on the default mode network on schizophrenia subjects. This was significantly different, and the change was in the direction of those who were otherwise healthy. We have also done some preliminary work on yoga in mirror neurons in schizophrenia. Mirror neuron activity has been shown to be increased following yoga, although this needs some more standardization and replication. So, like I mentioned, neurophysiological and neurobiological effects in depression support the neurobiological therapeutic effects of yoga. Similarly, in schizophrenia, at least one component of the therapeutic effect of yoga, that is improving the social cognition, was supported by its elevation of oxytocin in these patients. This is about what yoga can offer to mental disorders. I believe currently the society is facing a lot of stress because of the ongoing pandemic of corona. NIMANS has offered yoga practices for those who may want to practice yoga and they feel stressed because they have been locked down, they're sitting at home, their families are elsewhere experiencing the stress of either having infected, quarantine, or going through other financial and other losses. This stress has a potential to be brought down with yoga. Nimans has offered those who volunteered to go through a yoga session, 2 days, 2 hours in each day. We are offering it through an internet platform, hoping that more and more people log in. To date, we've had about 300 to 400 people logging in for these yoga sessions. It's possible that more and more may claim because we have not advertised it extensively except putting on the website of NIMHANS. Yoga has been claimed to also reduce the infection, immunity, and so on and so forth. I do not have a great experience or support from the data, whatever we have examined. The reduction of stress, reduction of cortisol theoretically could help immunity or infections, although unless we do good randomized trials we will not be able to corroborate this. So with these observations, with these questions, let me stop. I thank the PGI Institute for inviting me to give a talk on this uh, Facebook platform. Any questions, you can always mail me. My mailing address, I will request the organizers, Dr. Akshay Anand and Sheetal, to circulate to you. Any questions, you can mail me. There are a lot of publications that have come from NIMANS, which are already put up on the website of NIMANS available. You have to go to the NIMANS website and look for the yoga services on the same NIMANS website. All this information is available. So once again, Sheetal and Akshay, I thank you for letting me come over on this Facebook talk. Good luck for this series.